What is up, all? Elm Street Warrior here with another video, and today I'm going to be doing top 10 slashers. This video, I'm warning now, is going to be pretty long, and I'm probably going to have to divide it in two parts, so bear with me. Slashers are my absolute favorite, so I just couldn't help but do a video on them. I'm going to be doing the top 10 slashers, and then I'm going to be doing a movie review. Hint, it's based on my shirt here. If you can guess what the shirt is, and you'll guess what the movie review is, because I definitely have to do it with the upcoming season coming up for it. Alright, let's get into this. So, at number 10, we're coming in with Slumber Party Massacre. First of all, let me just start off by saying this is absolutely one of my favorite 80s slashers. Basically about an escaped mental patient who stalks a bunch of teenage girls at a slumber party. The plot is very simplistic, but the atmosphere with this movie is just a lot of fun. I love it. Russ Thorne, absolute all-star slasher antagonist. Just an all-around good time. I love this film. I have the poster in my room. It's hanging on the opposite side of my room as well. Just cannot go wrong with this movie, and just a really good time. Up next, we have... I know no one talks about this movie a lot, but I feel like this was some 90s cheese. It's definitely underrated, but I don't know why no one talks about this movie, but I definitely can get with it. Dr. Giggles. This is an underrated 90s horror flick. I don't know why exactly, but this, I had a lot of fun with it. Basically about this crazed doctor who escapes, again, from a mental hospital and wreaks havoc on this small town. Just basically killing people with doctor methods, but he's crazy as hell. Larry Drake puts on a great performance. He's been known in some other horror things as well. He was in a couple Tales from the Crypt episodes, the one with the Santa and all through the house. And I think he was in another one called The Secret, with the parents being vampires, but the son was a werewolf. Spoiler alert. But he puts on a great show in this film. I absolutely love Dr. Giggles. Like I always say, before you had Piper, who was blowing up demons on charm, she was running away from Dr. Psycho Killers, and this just an absolute just cheese fest, but I really like this film. I actually would really like to see this get the Scream Factory or Arrow treatment, because it's really long overdue for it. Next up we have, I know I'm going to get a lot of shit for this, Black Christmas 2006 remake. Now hear me out. The original, don't get me wrong, I appreciate what it did in horror, and it set the standards for Halloween and other holiday slashers to come about, but I just myself couldn't get into the movie. And the remake I absolutely had a blast with. I don't know, just the characters were much more entertaining. You had the foul-mouthed girl from Final Destination 3. You had the other girl sleeping with the other girl's boyfriend and all that drama. You got Dawn from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I thought that was weird they threw her in. And yeah, you just got a bunch of these characters, like these girls or whatever. They're kind of, I don't want to say like annoying, but you really don't feel for most of the characters and the girls in this movie. I will say it's neat how they threw in one of the girls from the original film as the house mother in this movie. I thought that was really cool that they did that. But yeah, most of the characters are annoying. This movie I solely like for the kills, because I feel like they really were kind of like gritty somewhat and just gruesome. And that was something that I really liked. The original one, I really feel like we didn't really see a lot of blood. And I'm not saying a slasher film needs a lot of blood to be good, because Halloween and some other ones are a prime example that didn't need a lot of blood and still were effective. But I don't know, man. I just couldn't get into the original one, and I really like the remake better. It probably has something to do with, because I watched the remake before I watched the original. It would be years later before I watched the original one. So, yeah, I don't know, but I just had a really good time with this remake. Now, the 2019 one, that's just a whole different ball game, which I'm not going to even get into what I thought of that. But this, I had a really, really good time with, and yeah, just definitely an underrated remake, in my opinion, and it just does not get enough credit. I wish I had the unrated version, or I thought I did, but I guess I didn't. I'm going to have to pick that up at some point. Next up, we have See No Evil. This is another one. It is not talked about enough. I absolutely thought Kane was brutal in this film. I remember watching this as a kid, and there are just so many death scenes and kills, or whatever, that just totally stuck with me through this film. Spoiler alert, I don't know if anyone's watched it, but I'm just going to give it. You got a girl getting devoured by dogs. You got a girl that gets a cell phone shoved down her throat, and just, yeah. Kane was a force to be reckoned with this movie. I don't know why this does not get talked about enough, but definitely a good ass time. I just rewatched this again, I think recently last year, and still this movie holds up for it coming out in 2006. Still holds up years later. I had a really good time with See No Evil. Just Kane as Jacob Goodnight, like I said, absolutely brutal and a force to be fucking reckoned with. Definitely check this one out for anyone that hasn't. And the people that has, like I said, I don't know why this is not talked about enough, but hey, to each his own. Next up, we have 1980s Maniac. This movie I honestly cannot watch too many times, I'm going to be real, because this movie is dark and gritty. It honestly, I cannot watch this that many times. Joe Spinell puts on a performance like no other with this movie. I will say, anytime you have a person that plays a killer and they can really play it to the point where it's just totally fucking believable, or it's just chilling, absolutely is what I call acting. That is just acting, and Joe Spinell's performance in this movie, absolutely acting. Just a gruesome, gruesome film, but definitely recommend this one. It's just something about Maniac that's so dark and gritty that you can't resist with not watching it. But it's definitely a movie I cannot watch that often because it's just a little bit too much for me. But definitely an essential 80s slasher that is just over the top crazy. Really, really good. I definitely recommend for anyone to either that's not watched this one, definitely check this out, because just this cover art alone pretty much gives you an idea of how gruesome this film really is. Next up, we have The Midnight Meat Train. I will say, this was probably one of my favorite Clive Barker movies. He's had some really great ones like Hellraiser, Candyman, and etc. But I really, really feel he doesn't get enough credit for Midnight Meat Train. Midnight Meat Train was some gory, just fun. Definitely just over the top. There weren't many slasher films in the late 2000s that were really good in my opinion. However, this is one that definitely shines and just definitely sets the tone for, hey, it's some slashers out here that are still decent, because this was definitely one of them. Just some over-the-top gore, and just, honestly, this will make you not want to ride a train late at night, because after watching this movie, it made me not want to. I watched this at 14, because I think I was a freshman when it came out, but, yeah, or a high school freshman when it came out, but yeah, this movie was just over-the-top crazy. Definitely enjoyed this one, and I don't know why. This is another one, like I said, not talked about enough at all, but really a good movie in my opinion. There's a whole sequence in this movie that is just really, really fucked up, and it's just like, wow, did this really just happen? Over the top, but I really, really like Midnight Meat Train. Next up, we have Haunt. I will say Haunt is one of those movies, definitely goes hand in hand with The Funhouse and another movie called Haunt. I feel like all three films just perfectly blend well together. Haunt is definitely one of Eli Roth's better films. Don't get me wrong, I liked Cabin Fever and I liked Hostel, but I feel like he really did himself with Haunt. I feel like Haunt kind of overshines all those films. This is just another typical movie where you got a bunch of dumb kids wanting to go someplace in the middle of nowhere and it just ends up with fucking disastrous results. Great movie, some people might say this is overhyped, but I don't really feel like that with this. I really feel like this was a good movie. I actually was blown away the first time I watched it, because I actually really was kind of like with it, because I watched it on Shudder randomly, but I actually really ended up liking this. Just an all-around good movie. The killers were awesome. Like I said, I can't really say much about the characters because they kind of were dull in my opinion, but other than that, this was a movie I kind of really was rooting more for the villains than I actually were the survivors, but all in all, just a good slasher flick movie. Like I said, I feel like this goes in hand with the Funhouse and Hellfest. Those three movies, I feel like these just go hand in hand with each other. Next up, we have Valentine. As I said before with another previous film, there weren't many good 2000 slashers in my opinion, but yet this was another one that I just really, really enjoyed. I know a lot of people might be like, what the fuck, you picked this as a top 10, but I really enjoyed this. Don't get me wrong, I like My Bloody Valentine. I have nothing against that movie. I like both the original and the remake, but there was just something about Valentine that was just really, I don't know, it spoke to me. And this was the first Valentine's Day horror movie I ever watched. So, this really just stuck with me. I remember watching this movie with my mom. She rented it, the VHS, not long after it came out, and I was like 7 years old, and I remember watching this with her, and I remember absolutely loving this, and it just kind of stayed in my mind forever. Basically, you have a group of girls that basically reject this guy at a dance, and he gets beat up or whatever and sent away, but years later, the girls start getting killed and stalked by a stalker, and spoiler alert, because I know everyone for the most part have watched this film, it turns out to be the guy, basically, that they rejected at the dance. And yeah, just an awesome, awesome movie. The kills aren't the best. They're kind of just like soft kills. Not really anything that's memorable or over the top, but still a decent movie. I know a fair number of people hate this film, but I also know a fair number of people that like it. And just a good early 2000s slasher flick. I'm mad because I really need to upgrade this and upgrade to the Scream Factory edition because this just didn't have it, and I really just need to fucking upgrade it. One day, though, I'll probably get to it. Alright, we are down to my last top two. First off, Candyman, 1992. First of all, let me just start by saying this movie absolutely scared the shit out of me. I first watched this at 15, and let me tell you, this movie scared the fuck out of me and made me not want to go in the mirror for like a month. Tony Todd's performance as Candyman, absolutely iconic. Nobody will ever replace it. Just an all-around good time. Not even an all-around good time, because this really was just a spooky-ass film. I like how they made it urban legend. They connected it to urban legend and mythology. Just a good film. I've heard the complaint recently with this movie that it's boring, but I don't know. I don't really see that. Like I said, I thought it was just creepy as hell. I'm looking really forward to the recent remake that's coming out in August. So we shall see. Will it live up to its title here? I'm hoping that it's good because I really don't want them to fuck up Candyman because great movie, and we don't need movies that's gonna fuck up the legacy of another one. And I'm really, really hoping that the remake or whatever, reboot or sequel, whatever you want to fucking call it, is good, because I don't feel like for them fucking that up. My number one, and you guys can already see it, so it's not really a surprise, but I have to go with Freaky. You know, this movie, I must say, when I first saw the trailer for it, I really wasn't interested in it because it just kind of looked lame to me. But I had just went ahead and watched it, and I was really, really surprised how much I ended up liking this film. You know, Blumhouse has kind of a wonky reputation. You have some of their horror movies that are good, and you have some of their horror movies that are bad. But this, they definitely did themselves. I thought this was really good. You know, Vince Vaughn absolutely killed it in this movie, as well as the lead girl you have here, Catherine Newton. Just both of them just absolutely killed it with this film. You know, I like Happy Death Day, but I will say Freaky definitely beats Happy Death Day by a long stone. There are so many kills in this that I just really enjoyed. And yeah, it has a comedic tone somewhat, but I will say with this movie, when it comes time to be a slasher film, it definitely succeeds in doing that. So they know when to have a comedy, they know when to turn it on and when to turn it off. But yeah, just an awesome film. You know, there really weren't any good horror films that much for 2020. There were like a couple, but there weren't many. But this was definitely one of them that definitely shined for 2020. Definitely just an awesome film and just a good, good time. The idea of her switching bodies with the killer, that was something that was just really, really inventive, and it's something I really, really enjoyed. And just, yeah, Freaky, great, great time, and I really, really love this one. So, okay, guys, that's it for my top 10. Stay tuned because I'm going to be doing a movie review, and that's it. Until next time, I'm Elm Street Warrior.